So our focus, our topic this week that I have in mind is flow. And we are going to be doing some physical flow. Don't worry, not like 100 dog series and 100 warrior flows, but more just a lot of kind of range of motion, a lot of different direction motion. And part of what I want to, I guess, plant as a kind of an underpinning concept is a lot of what allows us to feel physically fluid when we're moving. Of course, has to do with keeping moving. We know, right? When you've been stagnant, then you just get stiff. But also, it's our deeper kind of internal biology. It's how much inflammation we're dealing with, how our levels of things like I'm spacing the name of what keeps your skin. No, your skin, like young people have a lot of it, and we lose it when we're older. Collagen, right? Levels of collagen in your tissues, because it's not just skin, but that affects your joints, right? How much cortisol you're running through your systems, stress hormone stuff. Now, we need cortisol to wake us up in the morning. There's a natural ebb and flow of cortisol that we're supposed to have. So it's not like cortisol equals bad. Exactly. But a lot of people are running high levels of cortisol kind of all the time because of either current stress or a kind of history of stress and trauma that they haven't released or moved through their body. And so, these are just examples of the things that can reduce our feeling of fluidity. Our thought forms are a huge part of that. I noticed that this morning after Jason and I had done yoga and a little meditation. And, I knew he had a really busy day and I've got some stuff that I need to take care of today. And I said, what a beautiful and great day. And I'm so glad we get to be here doing what we do. Like, it really is such a blessing. Do you know what I mean? We're both healthy. Yes, we've got a lot going on, but it's all good stuff and we're able to do it. And so just recognizing that versus like, oh God, I've got a big day, but really different kind of entry point into the day. And I really did feel immediately like I got deeper breath. I felt more fluid. I felt that flow was happening in the ways that it's supposed to that keep us healthier. So that's what's on my mind. Is there anything bubbling up? And I'm seeing some great facial expressions. So thank you. It lets me know that you're reflecting and maybe kind of thinking about your own life or your own day and how does this all apply? I am suggesting that everyone have a block because we are going to be using that for support when we're in ragdoll. I do ragdoll pretty much every morning. I'm very tight in my hamstrings, but I love it because it really helps with spinal decompression. And it's such an easy thing to do, even if you're in a park, camping, in a hotel room, you don't need to lay down. But I noticed that I get a much better stretch and I can really relax into it if I can have my hands on something that kind of reduces the amount of weight that I immediately have to try and accommodate into my tight hamstrings. I am going to take a quick moment because I think once again, it may be that my camera has a little schmooge on it. Okay, hopefully that's clear. All right, my friends, coming onto your back body to start, please have your block handy. I'm going to use these first moments of our practice to really encourage first just getting here. I think a big part of even knowing what's in our body and our being is having a moment like this where nobody needs anything from you. And you simply get to tune in and say, how's it going? You could also join me as you are ready in a few sighing breaths. Inhaling slow, deep, and wide through the nose. And what I like to notice as I'm sighing is just the texture of the sigh. Sometimes it feels heavy and kind of laden, and other times it just feels light and fluid. I love noticing how after even a few sighs, I generally do feel more fluid, more interconnected, more present. I invite you then sweep your arms overhead and just start organically stretching. So you're reaching for the wall behind you, rolling wrists, rolling ankles, flexing through feet and hands. You can do kind of a light little nerve flossing experience if you flex through the wrists. Lovely. And then clasping one hand around the other wrist and drawing long upon it. See if you can bring your arms closer to the floor. If that creates impingement or pressure in the neck, don't force that, please. And then as you're ready, you'll switch. And actually, let's do that one more time. I'm going to have you take your right ankle across your left, and then take your left hand on your right wrist and pull. So we're making kind of a banana shape. So you want your arms going to the same side your feet are, if you will. So if your right ankle crossed over left, and you take your arms both to the left, you're getting a stretch through the right side. And some of us who are tight might feel that in that right hip, IT band, etc. And then the opposite, left ankle over right, right hand clasps left wrist and pulls it over the right. So now we got a long shape on the left, getting a stretch there. And releasing, bringing the right knee into release wind pose. Left leg is anchoring the thigh towards the floor, heel reaching away, no wings, no shrugs. So let's see throughout our practice how much movement we can create with a sense of intelligence here at our hub, the core, and a sense of freedom through the head, neck, and shoulders. So especially those of you that already have tight necks, or like me, you're kind of a chronic shrugger, I want you to evaluate that neck every pose. As you're ready, let's switch. As you draw the left knee in and you flex firmly through the right foot, anchor through the right thigh. Is this side different? Sending deep breath in there. I always like to say breath is our change agent, and it always creates more flow. Let's bring the right knee in again, and I want you to notice subtlety. Do you get pulled a little to the right side, like rolled a little? If so, that means you've got an imbalance of tension and torque. On your inhale, send that right leg to the sky, and as you're holding it there, point, flex, and roll. Inhaling, is there more? Exhale, root that low back, anchor it into the floor as you slowly descend your right leg. And it's like you're trying to paint a stripe on the wall in front of you. If you need to bend the knee in order to keep the back anchored, please do. Soft neck, this is a great place to practice. Fluid and melting. As you guide the left knee in, examining, do you roll out to the side? A light connection, tip of the tongue, roof of the mouth. Soft ujjayi, throat contraction. Turning the gaze up and in. And on a long inhale, extending that left leg to the sky, point, flex, and roll. Exhaling, roots that low back and descend. Soft, powerful, beautiful dichotomy that we can create in the body. Enjoy a sighing or resting breath, and then we'll come into abdominal pumping. Inhaling as if it's all you would ever do, a little mind game with yourself. Exhaling, empty and hold out, and begin. I'm often stunned by how much work that is. I get my heart rate up. I usually need a big breath. So go ahead and do it again if you would, and notice how much tension are you coming up against in your body. Yeah, and this is, of course, our digestive center. It's our emotional hub. And of course, we've got all these big core muscles, not just at the front, but in the back. And you're feeling and moving some of that during the pumping. All those connections and innervations along the spine. So this is a really amazing way to create more fluidity deep inside the body where we don't typically touch. All right, inviting you to bring both knees into the belly and a little spinal rocking side to side. I love this pose. I'm always stunned by how good it feels for such a simple thing. It often also lets me know, how tight is my back today? Before I go out and move things or what have you. Good to know where your body's at. Let's take those knees wide then and clasp at either the ankles or with the strap across the feet. Or my favorite is middle and index finger between the big and second toe. And then of course, no wings, no shrugs. Anchor those shoulders down. Drawing down firmly. If your hips are curled way up, please try to anchor your low back. And as you apply a few really slow, deep breaths, notice the opportunity for stretch and movement deep in the pelvis, the hips. Good. I'm going to slide my hands up the shin bone until I can plant my upper arm on the floor, bringing the hand right behind the kind of knee or thigh. And I'm going to let one heel drop in towards the butt while I extend out through the other leg. And I'm going to explore there, again, with pointing, flexing, and rolling. And just notice some of the movement that creates all the way up the lower leg to the knee joint and so on. And of course, with our focus on fascia lately, you might be thinking about that too. And of course, switching. So as you're flexing to your heel, you're creating a stretch, not just say in the calf and hamstring where you maybe feel it, but in your plantar fascia. So for folks who deal with plantar fasciitis, all of these movements, very helpful. Let's bring both heels together and at the butt. Excuse me. Thank you. And butterfly. And I'm doing a variety of things here. So one is I'm going to have my hands on the blades of the feet, and I'm going to take my right foot to the right, and it's going to roll me a little to the right. I'm kind of opening the foot out a little. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring the right foot up the body, let the left foot go out. Left foot comes up towards the belly button, right foot goes out. And you just feel you're getting some mobility through the hip. Love it. And then we're going to plant the feet wide for horse riding stance. And we're just going to come up briefly into this pose, giving us a nice, again, angle that's different than our normal path of motion, where the knees are always in line with the hips. Coming down, keeping the feet wide, please. Take the right knee down towards the center line of the mat. And I'm going to have you pulse it. So let your knee come back away from the mat a little bit and then press it towards the mat. And please do that a few times. And there are two distinct ways you can do this. One is letting the other leg, the left knee, flop, say, to the left. I find this much more useful if I stay on my left foot, knee up, while the right knee's down. And then let's switch. Again, pulsing, kind of letting that left knee lift away from the floor, and then using your muscles to press it towards the floor. We'll do that a few times. I found this pose to really help me release some very chronic tension I have that's worse on the right side through IT band in the hip area. The next time now we're going to take the right knee down, providing as much pressure as you feel comfortable with. We're going to take the right arm up and back, reaching through the middle finger. And then I'm going to invite you to release that reach and reignite it. So we're kind of softening and intensifying that long, long line. One more. And then we'll switch slowly. Throughout any of these practices, of course, take the head directionally wherever feels good on the neck. We don't want it to take on tension. And in some of these poses, there's the opportunity, for example, here I've got my left arm up and I'm rotating my face to the right. To me, that feels like a nice release. There's an opportunity to lubricate that upper part of the spinal column. And release on back. We're going to bring the soles of the feet together in butterfly. Take a few resting breaths, inviting the knee to settle towards the floor, etc. And then, if you'd like, raise the hips just an inch or so off the floor And this is a really important pose in my mind. If we want to create fluidity in the neck, for example, cultivating strength in that deep inner thigh, groin, pelvis area. That's where our power to push, pull, apply pressure downward is supposed to come from. And let me give you an example in my morning. I go to pour my hot water in my coffee carafe, and I'm kind of angling like this, like I am a teapot, right? Like I'm going like that. And I'm like, this is not good. And so I squeeze my inner thighs, thinking about the imaginary block, and I root and rise through my spine. And now all of a sudden, I'm using the muscles that are supposed to be doing it with all that support but from down below. So just notice for you, is this difficult? We're going to hold for another 10 seconds or so. How difficult is it to hold the hips up? How much intensity or activity are you feeling in those deep inner thigh glutes? And as you're ready, let it settle, let the legs straighten. Actually take them wide. So flat like you're in corpse, but legs out wide. Good. And if you would flex firmly through both heels and then rotate your toes towards each other. And really what you're doing is you're rotating the whole hip joint all the way down through your femur and so on. And some of us might even feel a stretch in through the glute and piriformis area. Does that feel good? Yeah. This is something I actually do almost every night as I'm preparing to sleep. I get into bed, I'll do that a few times because I just am carrying so much tension from the day, and I realize this really, really helps. Nice work, folks. I'm going to invite you to roll on your right side in embryo pose. You might tuck something under the head. Sometimes it feels good to have a small block or pillow between the knees. Either way, we want your knees straight forward to the hip joints, heels flexed. And ideally, you can take your forehand and put it on top of the thigh, kind of anchoring. Because I also want that top knee to stay on top of the lower knee. I don't want it drawing back, then the pelvis is destabilized. So we're gonna get a spinal stretch with beautiful stability through the low back. So as you're ready, if you want more of a stretch, take your floor shoulder and scooch it towards the outside of the mat, that would be your right shoulder. Then from there, we're gonna open up through that top arm. And come on back a little bit. So again, kind of pulsing. I think of this as WD-40 our body, right? But we're not just going into a shape and going, here, take that. A little back and forth. And as you're ready, find your best stretch in your open position. Maybe the arm is straight back from the body. Maybe it's a little up from 90 degrees. What would it feel like to roll through the wrist or point and flex through the hand? A lot of us doing that will feel some movement in kind of those nerve channels, nerve sheaths. Would it feel good to you to extend through your top leg? If I do that, I always like to take my floor hand, again, in this case, the right, and prop it under my calf so that I'm keeping my leg the height of the hip. It's not dropping down, which again, will tend to destabilize and pull on the back. Notice where you feel restriction, tightness, crispiness. Take your attention there. Take your breath there. Where we bring our breath, we bring circulation, we bring fluidity. And in your own time, return please to embryo pose on that right side. Take a couple of breaths before rotating to the other side. So the book on fascial stretching that I've been referencing with you guys, one of the things, go ahead and create your stretch on the other side. One of the things that he talks about is fish oil, high quality fish oil. Obviously, you don't want to be getting stuff with mercury and whatnot. But I've always known there's benefits to fish oil, but reading his kind of essay on it really re-upped my attention of like, I need to start taking that again. And he recommends it in somewhat higher doses than say the bottle does. And obviously you'd have to check with your doc and stuff like that. It can generally be very good for people with all kinds of medical problems, but it can actually, if somebody already has like blood that's too thin and other stuff, it's a problem. So you want to make sure you know what you're doing with it. Yeah, as you're exploring this side, what is the feeling of flow versus restriction and where? You know, again, hopefully you've got those knees stacked, you're using your lower arms, so you're feeling very stable through the sacral area. That should allow you to explore restriction and flow all the way up through the spine, the rib cage, and again, up into even where the spine goes up in the brainstem. Out through the arm. And at some point, if you choose to, through the leg, you would, and add your floor hand from underneath. Heel stays flexed if you want to create that stretch going. Okay. From here, we're going to return to embryo pose, take a couple deep breaths, and then use one hand to kind of press up, and you're going to come up into your table pose. So I'm going to recommend you have your block at the front of the mat, just to be handed for you. We're going to come into a little cow cat, one of the easiest poses to create fluidity in. Inhaling cow, we drop. Well, we don't drop, but we let the belly lower towards the floor as we actively reach the tailbone back part forward and opposite the cat back. And I remind you, this is a really great one that one can do on your feet. So again, if you're camping, you're out gardening, and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I'm really stiff. Just pause, do a little cow cat. Looking good. Let's use that powerful core support. Think about that low robot belly to take you into your first downward facing dog. Intelligent hands, fingers are spreading. Shoulder heads rotate away from the ears, down the back body. Send the hips up and back. And then on your next breath, think about drawing the belly in towards the spine to send the hips further up and back and to really reduce your weight on the hands. You should feel more like you could lift your hands without the structure collapsing. And then pedaling one heel at a time towards the floor. Then please hold both heels towards the floor. I don't intend that they're touching, and my knees are bent in fact. Deep breath. Inhaling, come forward with your right foot. Pause. I want you to steer right hip bone back, left hip bone forward. Using your hands on your right knee, see if you can come up into a little bit of a lunge. Still swinging right hip in and back. That's going to put you in that for that inner thigh. And then as you're ready, step forward, mountain feet, I should say, but we're in ragdoll. Support the hands on the block if you like. Deep breath. Give yourself all the room you need for that inhale. Exhale, fold. Compression exhale. Empty, empty, empty. On your inhale, sit your butt to a nice high chair. We really want to stay mostly upright through the spine. I don't mean completely upright, but I don't want to be reaching forward like so through my spine because it's just going to use all the wrong stuff. On an inhale, root and rise, big glute squeeze, push the ceiling away. Exhaling, fold, compression exhale. Inhaling, extend halfway up. Again, you can use the block for the hands or you can bring them to the shin bone. Exhaling, we're going to step back with the right foot into a lunge. Now I want to steer left hip bone back, right hip bone forward. So it's like I should be able to, like I can squeeze something between my inner thighs. I'm going to use my hands on my thigh to come up. Breathe and notice. Again, feel all that strength happening at that deep center core. And using the hands again on block or floor, step forward, mountain feet, fold. Full breath. Empty, empty, empty. On your inhale, sit to your high chair. If you'd like a little balance challenge, come up on the feet, balls on the feet. On your inhale, root and ride, big glute squeeze. Exhaling prayer hands. Tune into your first standing posture. Squeeze the imaginary block between the thighs. Just notice. Is there any sense of tension or hiking through the shoulder blades, the neck? See if you can think about things just sliding down. Light connection to the tongue, soft gaze. And as you're ready, we're going to inhale and send those prayer hands up and then out, palms facing forward, fingers spreading and slowly noticing what's in our shoulders. And then we're going to do what I call cross-country skiing badly or floppily. So I'm bending the knees, letting my arms move and letting that arm movement one at a time. So one forward, one back, take me into a kind of spinal twist where you might even let your head travel, let your vision journey behind you. This is just, again, nice and floppy with no intention to get anywhere. Lovely. And I want you to just notice as you stop, I feel a little tingly. I get a little flow feeling, circulation. And take my feet a little wider, and we're going to do something similar, but it's side to side. This is an old Tai Chi thing called empty jacket sleeves, I think. I got that right? Do you remember what it's called? That you imagine that you have like a blazer on, but your arms aren't in the sleeves, if you will, and you're using your body to swing the sleeves, which are your arms in this case. And you're letting that back arm arrive with the back of the hand right at that kidney. And so this is really helpful for stimulating the kidney, creating circulation. And we know kidneys are so important to our vitality and all our organs, of course, just so critical. Anytime we can create circulation and remove stagnation, it's so powerful. There's just a few more. Just breathe. Have fun being a floppy version of you. And then let it come to a standstill, inviting you to rotate the shoulder heads back into our jet airplane stance. And just notice for a moment. I'm hoping you can feel a little tingly. And I'm going to ask you to notice something else. And it's subtle, so it may not register for all of you. What I notice is that if I'm standing with my feet wide, which sometimes we do when we're just talking to people even, if I don't think about it, I'm really mostly using the outside of the leg. Like it's just kind of the gravity is forcing there. I want to see what happens if I intentionally ignite pelvic floor and inner thigh and low glute, basically like you do when you're in that Persian butterfly. Now I feel like I'm very stable. If someone were to try and push me over, it would be very difficult for them. Or if you lifted me up, like legs would just stay like that. Do you feel that difference at all? Yes. Oh my God, great. Thank you. I was like, can I just do this and more? Yeah, and if you're not sure if you do, relax it and notice. So now my sticky mat's holding my feet. Another great way to practice that if you have home, if you've got a slippery tile floor, put some socks on and practice this, and you will feel the difference. All right, nice work, folks. Inhale, root and rise. Keep those feet wide. Exhaling, fold, support the block. We're going to hang out here for a little bit. Deep breaths. This is one of my favorite poses. As I mentioned, ragdoll in general, but I love feet a little wide because then I can also just take my hips side to side and I'm keeping my knees bent and I'm able to create almost like a crazy eight. I don't know why it's always a crazy eight, just an eight with my hips. And I can feel how that's moving all of my knee, ankle, hip connections, IT band in some very organic ways. So we're designed to be able to do, by the way, but we don't do very often. And it makes us really prone to injury, right? All of a sudden, our foot sticks on something or we slip or what have you. So notice where your sticky spots are. And then holding in center here, just holding as deeply as you can, nice deep knee bend. I'm going to invite you to bring your hands up behind if you do a mudra. Now, this is a great place to notice if that feels really like it's just so hard to get hands together. You might want a strap, or I often just use my scarf. Because what we want to do is with those fingers intertwined, if you're not using a strap, your fingers are intertwined, We want to be able to get the arms straight. We want to be able to feel that elbow click in. Then have enough room to move the hands away from the hips and return to the hips. That's where you're going to get all of that fluidity around the shoulder blade. That extra shoulder blade sandwich. Yes, that's what I find is I can do yoga mudra with the hands, but sometimes if I give myself space on the strap, now I get more fluidity and more release. And as somebody who's often chronically tight neck, trapezius, etc., this is one of my go-tos. This is one of my self-massage things to create flow. You might even open your jaw and lion stretch. When you're ready to come out, your choice if you want to use your strap or hands to bring you up or just let go and fold. Either way, we are going to once again fold. So if you want to sweep up and then fold, up to you. I'm going to put the hands on the mat because I'm going to step back, legs wide. So we're in our bear pose. You can take your hands wide too. You're kind of right out at the edges of the mat, hands and feet. And then I'm going to ask you to straighten your left leg and push the heel towards the floor and let it take your body to the right. And then the same thing, other side. Right leg straightens, heel presses to the floor. Let it take your body more to the left. And as we do this a few more times, what would it feel like to look under your arm? It's the arm that matches the leg that you're straightening in general. You got it. Lovely. Settling into child's pose. Knees settle, feet come together, forehead resting to the floor, or if that doesn't work, you can use a block. Child's pose is such a wonderful pose for providing a deep stretch to the low back and hips. So please don't get lazy with your breath here. Get really intentional, big, big belly breaths. All right, we're going to do a little more flow here. I'm going to be doing thread the needle in this position. If you don't love this version of things, you might come up onto your hands and knees and table. Otherwise, you can do standing. Otherwise, you're just going to lift up and take one arm underneath the other. So I'm taking my right hand facing palm to the ceiling, bringing it underneath me, underneath to the left, and feeling that stretch through the right side. Sometimes people like using the left hand, in this case, to clasp the wrist and deepen that kind of pull on it. Some people enjoy having that arm straight forward. I've even had people bring that top arm into a partial bind, where you're wrapping your arm around behind and the top of the hands on forward. For a couple more breaths, please really allow the inhale to take up space. Allow it to kind of bring you out of your depth of your stretch and shape. And then the exhale, you find you can settle in, you can deepen, you can nourish something new. And as you're ready, nice core and rest support, come on out and we'll explore the other side. And of course, you can always do a standing version of this as well. Is this side different? This is really important because, a lot of what we end up experiencing in our neck is coming from all around the shoulder girdle, including down in between the shoulder blades and so on. So we want to get to know that, like, what is the pattern? Where is it coming from? What contributes to it? How do I get it to fluid up? Yeah, looking good. Here's some Ujjayi, more big breath. And come back up to hands and knees. We're going to actually come onto our butt a little vertical wise. If you've got wrist stuff, if having a hand at a 90-degree wrist angle does not work for you, this might not be the best stretch. See how you feel about it. It's really important that we're very consciously sending the shoulder heads down the back, and that I'm going to keep my chin tucked. I am not reaching my chin up and back, which will tighten the heck out of my scalenes and SCM and all that. So as you're ready, nice long inhale, shoulders are down, chin is tucked. You can get a little shoulder blade sandwich going, and then on your exhale, raise the hips, and then push the floor away with your hands to get your chest higher. Hello, stretch. Inhale, release. You guys get that stretch through like bicep tendon? Awesome, let's do it. Twice more. Inhale, slow, deep, wide. Exhale, raise hips, then push ribs away, arms come straight. Last time. And releasing, I'm going to invite you to go one of two directions, either onto your back for reclined pigeon or rolling forward, coming into your classic pigeon. Lots of ways to get there, by the way. You don't have to go hard. Just right knee behind the right wrist, coming on down. You might settle the head on the floor or this. And if you're looking to create more intensity, you can use the back foot to pull back a little bit. You just don't want to crank the foot forward, which I see all too often. That's what will put the knee at risk and the low back as well. And we know that breath is our change agent, helps move stagnation in a way that nothing else does. So I'm going to invite us into 3 breath releases, essentially a sign breath, but you're welcome to do more of a or whatever comes in. Big inhale. Beautiful. If you're in reclined pigeon, take your time. You might bend and straighten the knee. Those of us in classic pigeon, it might feel amazing to come up into our waking pigeon. You can get that stretch through the deep psoas, especially if you think about inhaling in that space. To come out gently, slowly, explore, notice what you need, and create the other side. So a reminder to those of you who are in reclined pigeon that in general, you're going to get a better stretch if you're just holding the right or the left knee, in this case, the second side, with your hands, hold hands. Then you send it a little towards the center line. So you're using your raised leg, in this case, the right, to kind of help push the whole thing towards you. Then you use your hands specifically on the knee. And what a lot of people find is that intensifies the stretch into piriformis and all the way down through IT guided connections and more. So, you know, by all means, find your own version, but if you've never tried that thoroughly, please do. And here we have a nice storm coming our way. Hope your laundry's not on the line, or like us. Hope you don't have hay down to be baled. All right, friends, we're coming back to our feet, returning to our feet in ragdoll. So when you're ready, you might just find a rock, or if you're in classic pigeon, walk your hands back to down dog, however you want to do it. We're going to end up on our feet, front of the mat, and we're going to do a little pulsing here with the hips. So I'm going to kind of have my hands on my block. I want my block, by the way, right below my shoulder joints. I do not want it forward. I want my weight beautifully in both feet. That block is just there to kind of let my heavy arms have some support. I'm going to inhale and drop the hips. I know not everybody will be able to bring the hip butt down and still have your feet all the way on the floor. You can either let your heels come up or just don't go as far down with the hips. On the exhale, we're going to raise the hips and forward. So I'm going to invite you to continue that. Inhale, drop the hips. Again, let the neck be in a really easy state. Exhale, fold and raise the hips, belly to spine. Nice soft face. There's nothing to make happen here. Is there more? Let's do a couple more breath cycles, letting those breaths be as long and greedy as possible. Last one. On your inhale, extending halfway up, hands on shins or block. And on your exhale, stepping back, right leg only. Steer left hip bone back, right hip bone forward. Make sure you've got as long of a lunge as you comfortably can. If you're in kind of a short lunge, this is going to feel very awkward. All right, we're kind of coming up into a little jet airplane, or glider plane actually. I want you to first see, can you get your belly off of your thigh? If you need to, use your hands to support. Crown is reaching forward away from the tailbone, and then have those arms out of glider plane. If this is too much, come up higher. You don't have to stay that low. I'm kind of forcing work into that left glute. Do you guys feel that? Yeah. Yay. On an inhale, do come up with the arms. I want you to bend your back knee a little bit. Reach up through the arms, maybe with the head and heart. See if you can get a nice touch through the front of that hip at the back. Exhaling, step to your forward fold again. Nice ragdoll. Full breath. Inhale, sit to chair. Prayer hands if you like, arms extended, whatever feels good. On an inhale, rise, big glute squeeze. Prayer hands. Soft tongue. Again, notice if any tension has risen in the shoulders and neck, and invite everyone to slide on down. On the inhale, we're going to slowly reach the arms out and up. I say slowly because I want you to again feel where needs WD-40. Exhaling, swan dive to your pole. Empty, empty, empty. Inhale, extend halfway up. Is there more? Get it really long through the back of the neck. Exhale and step back, left foot only. And if you need to deepen the lunge, you can move your front foot forward or back foot back, whatever's easier. But make sure to steer those hips with me. Right hip back, left hip forward. It feels like you should pinch something in the thigh. Then if you would like a little support on the thigh as you create your glider plane. Belly to spine. It's so important we're not collapsed here. And I reach out further from my heart with my fingers. And I soften any more through the face and neck. Slowly bending that back knee. Reach up. And I'm going to hold, and I'm going to breathe, and I'm going to reach up through my heart to get a deep stretch here. So again, I'm not leaning back. I'm reaching the heart forward. Exhaling, forward fold, right. We're going to be coming into a quadricep and hip stretch from here, from the front of the body. So your choice is to either come up to standing and create a standing version, or step back to your downward facing dog, or however you'd like, and then come on down to your belly. If you're doing a belly version, I really recommend bringing one forearm across the front so that you can kind of press the chest up, and that allows you to grab that back ankle easier. Like your old ankle. There's a front ankle in this case. Allow the shoulder head to be drawn towards the spine. So whichever version you're doing, all of these same rules apply, if you will, or these guides. To have the knees straight down from the hip joint, have the glutes engaging forward towards the floor or from the front wall. And of course, deep breath. Slow, deep, and long. And I'm glad to see you guys holding as long as you are on this one side, because really, it can take a good 5 to 6 breaths at a minimum to train some of those big muscles to let go and for the stretch to kind of deepen and evolve and get to other places. When you are complete, switch it up. Nice, slow transitions. Remember, if you're ever having a hard time getting hold of that ankle, don't keep trying because you'll generally get a hamstring cramp. That's where you'd want to take a strap and put it around. There's also really nice versions of this, where you can use the wall, which is kind of fun. So if you're standing, where you can get the wall, hold your foot. I should do a yoga mini on that. I'm excited. I'm going to be recording some more yoga minis this week. So those of you who are with me on Patreon, especially, I think that'll be a nice little thing to add to your toolbox. All right. If you're on your belly, you have the opportunity to move into bow pose if you want to get a hold of both ankles and let the ankles draw your heart up away from the floor. If you're doing standing and you want something similar, you can still then press your ankle one at a time into the hand, even do kind of a little standing dancer pose. And I'm always amazed by how different the stretch is that we get when we're activating, right? So this is basically a wonderful resistance stretching experience. And what I love about resistance stretching is it really gets to like the whole part of the body, right? It's not just a specific muscle or what have you. It's just the whole region gets to be activated and stretched and have fluidity come to it. Go ahead and see if you feel any different side to side, especially those of you doing standing dancer where you're doing it one at a time. But even if you're doing both. So I have a sense, for example, often in the front of my left thigh of a more crispiness in my tissue, like where it almost feels like something could kind of pull, like it isn't just a beautiful rubber band experience. And noticing that has allowed me to give it more attention. And I've done some fascia, kind of that scrubbing and so on. It has gotten so much better. Looking good. All right, we're going to come onto our back body. We're going to be doing a little bridge with foot hover, which you guys know is one that I think everyone should do every day. It is again about creating stability that then allows us fluidity, right? That direct relationship. I think it's so true of us, not only physically, but emotionally as well, financially, right? When you feel stable, then there's just so much more flow and a feeling of flexibility. Plant your feet flat and rooted, all four corners of the feet. Block between the thighs if you like, otherwise just imagine it there, which for foot hover is sometimes better. Raise the hips, and then ever so slowly just hover 1 foot at a time off the floor. Now, some of you have your feet maybe in that 6-inch spread. Great. If that's still too hard, bring them closer. If you've got them wider, which I saw a couple of, I would bring them closer. Somewhere around 6 inches is usually pretty good. Notice as you go back and forth, who's doing the work, which side needs your attention perhaps, and try not to use the neck here. But I notice even subtle differences. Like when I lift my left foot, I can feel a little bit of weird effort happening right under my left rib cage at the back, kind of in that kidney zone, that I don't have on the other side. So please be a wonderful observer, more curious than we are, sure. And releasing those hips completely, bring knees into belly once more. And as you go a little side to side, I'm hoping that you feel more fluid than when we started. And we're going to come into another kind of an out of forward path of motion movement. We're going to do a straddle. Most people are able to do this comfortably and just use your hands for support. But if somebody needs a strap or something, go for it. First, anchor your core. So there's a nice belly to spine floor. I've got my hands on the outside of my hips, and I'm going to just use them to support as I straighten my legs out into a straddle, deep heel flex. And then I'm going to point and flex. Point and flex. Check that you can roll your head side to side. It's not doing the work. And again, I've got my upper arms on the floor. So there's really very little effort happening in my upper body. They're sort of stabilized there. Lovely. Then one more time, bringing those heels in towards butterfly. And one more time, doing that little windshield wiper, bringing 1 foot higher up to belly, letting the other go. I'm noticing I can for sure do a much bigger movement here, such that I can even like almost let myself roll. Like when I bring my right foot toward my belly button, I can roll so far to the left but I get a good stretch up through the right ribs. I can let my neck roll. Feels awesome. All right, we're going to plant our feet one more time for bridge pose, with or without your block. And your invitation here is with or without yoga mudra. If you're creating yoga mudra, maybe do non-dominant hand clasp so that your opposite thumb is on top. You otherwise might have the hands rotated open like jet airplane. What we're trying to do is for sure get the shoulder blades in towards the spine. So there's a beautiful broadening and stretch through the heart space. And now think about the imaginary block and just notice if that changes your pose a little bit. It always does for me. You know, if you were looking at me, I probably looked like I was in alignment. My knees were straight up from the feet, but I can feel the extra ignition and stabilizing that imaginary block creates. Isn't it great that something imaginary is so powerful? All right, friends, come slowly on down, reach for your block. We're going to place it under the sacral triangle. This has long been one of our favorite poses for helping deal with feeling tight and kind of bound up at that whole sacral area. There are two distinct poses, and one is with the knees bent, letting your lower back just sort of settle towards the floor. I find that contractioning so useful after gardening or doing firewood or a lot of forward bending. Then if you like, you'll explore the legs straight. There's no ideal alignment, and you're letting your legs just rotate, feet flop. But we do want the pelvis to stay pretty steady. So if yours kind of dumps down and forward, that's usually an indication that you need to shift the block downward a little bit. Stay there and breathe and notice. Remember, the breath is your change agent. When you're done, come slowly off the block, and then I'll have you take the block, put it between the thighs, as if you were doing bridge, but we're actually not going to do bridge. We're just going to squeeze and soften the squeeze. And this is yet another chance to notice how stable do you feel? How intelligent are those deep inner thigh, groin, pelvic floor muscles? How easy is it to talk to them? And then I'm going to ask those of us in particular that are chronic jaw clencher, neck tightener people. I want you to create as much power as you can, squeezing the heck out of that block. And then scan and see how much softness you can create in head, neck, and shoulders. You know, I wish I had known about this during college. I got chronic headaches just out of the blue because I was so tight all the time. I did everything with my head, neck, and shoulders. So you see how fluid and relaxed can you be there? How powerful and present in the core muscles that are supposed to be doing their job. I'm so curious, raise a hands if you're willing. How many people find that dichotomy pretty easy to create? Okay. 2 hands, about 25%. Yeah. So for those of you who are a little more like me, sorry, this would be an amazing practice daily. So that as you move into your day, you're more likely to flow and be free in those areas that really are just supposed to float above the core. And it begins with the feet, and the thighs, the pelvis, the belly, and the back. Speaking of back, we're going to roll onto our belly or flip, however you want to do it, to do some jet airplane and glider plane. So a big part of what allows our head and neck ease is when we're walking, we need to actually be upright. And so for most of us, that will actually almost feel like we're about to fall backward. But it will mean that then you have a heel strike that you then roll through. And those arms, remember how when we were doing the kind of floppy cross-country skiing, it wasn't quite like that. But when we're walking, this whole shoulder girdle and arms should be just kind of loosey-goosey. But we are just so stable through all these muscles that are meant to hold us here. So first, on your belly, rotate your thigh bones so they're straight towards the floor. Sometimes people's automatically rotate out, especially when we squeeze our butt. We want to reorganize. So it's almost as if I'm putting a block between your thighs and inviting you to squeeze them. Anchor pelvis, palms facing the floor. And we're going to do both jet airplane and glider plane, so you're welcome to flow between. But critical here is to get those shoulder heads as far off the floor towards the ceiling and down the back as possible. And then think about elongating through the back of the neck such that your chin kind of tucks up into your throat. Again, not like aggressively. I don't want you tightening your neck to make it happen. As you're ready, inhale, extend. Is there more? Exhale, soften towards the floor. Then we're going to have us come in and out like this for another 3-4 times, however many you want. Because it's your chance to notice what is working that should be, and what's maybe participating that shouldn't be. We often say that we're recruiting muscles. So especially if we feel weak in one area, we'll recruit muscles from somewhere else habitually to try and perform the task. So here's your chance to kind of scan your own habits. And then how are you feeling? Would it feel appropriate to hold in your flight? And then do you want to explore the difference between jet airplane and glider plane? Would it feel good to bring both arms forward? Does that just create a lot of tension, which is what it does for me usually? So I often like to play with one arm forward, one arm back. In your own time, release and press back to your child's pose. Knees spread and the feet come towards each other. Deep belly breath that takes you into your back and chest. So I love to sometimes have my arms extended as far forward as I can, and then I'll take such a big inhale that it almost demands that I lift my head up a little bit. And then settle. And then at some point, I'm going to intentionally kind of roll a little side to side. So I'm going to dip my right armpit towards the floor and let my head roll towards my right temple. And vice versa. Again, recognizing that any tension that I come across through this like armpit, rib area is a part of the tension I am experiencing through my whole neck and shoulder girdle. All right. I'm going to return us to our bellies. We're going to do one more round of jet airplane, glider plane, and however you like. If you enjoy the rising and settling, if that's where you get the good work without any of the negative stuff. Again, we're interested in fluidity, not the tension that comes from striving. So make this delicious, light connection, tip of the tongue, maybe even a soft smile, beautiful long necks. Oh, you guys are great. And I hope you're feeling a vibrant effort up the back body, but if you're feeling it in your low back at all, for sure keep the thighs anchored, and then also just don't come as high. These are good options. And when you feel complete, take a moment to settle on the belly, and you might just rock the hips. You can windshield wiper the low leg, all these options. And then we're going to close our sort of more physical part of our practice with forearm plank. And here too, we want to enter into it with just a sense of ease. We're going to be utilizing our authentic strength and also our fluidity. So again, soft face, you might have a soft smile, abiding breath. And ideally, we want to create some challenge in the forearm plank. If your back is bothering you, then you want to be on your knees. If you're on your feet, make sure you're squeezing the imaginary block. Igniting your thigh bones to the sky. And then if you'd like a little more challenge, release one foot at a time from the floor. And I think it's interesting to notice how it might feel different side to side. You can also take your chest and hips just a little side to side, a little shimmy. And if you're shaking, great, that means you're really waking up and demanding those muscles participate, but only if we can meet it with breath and equanimity. And that's what we call the edge. Like there's intensity that we can meet with fluidity. Come on out into a resting pose of your choosing. And then please identify if there's anything else you're craving and needing. We're going to come into our resting period. Some people call it yoga nidra or yoga sleep. Typically, those are much longer than what I'm giving you, but there is a wonderful opportunity here to tune in and get quiet and just simply let your body absorb and circulate what you've created. If anyone needs something once you're settling, you realize, do I need a blanket or I need a bolster, please let me know. I'm so grateful to be sharing this day with you. Thank you for getting to the mat with me. I hope it supports you in everything you do in the coming week. All your thoughts with self, all of your interactions with others. As you settle, notice the scanned body. Is there anything holding on, waiting to relax? This is your yoga. Settle in deeply as if gravity just got stronger and as if you were going to be here for a great long while.
Yes. All right.
Have a great day.
See you next
Bye-bye.
week. Bye.
Sounds good.